Hello, everybody. Today we're going to continue with the Carenado review series with their 170B. Now, this might be my favorite aircraft that they've come out with, and we'll go over a few reasons why in just a moment. But we're currently sitting at Milford Sound in New Zealand. So, World Update 12 was just released, which was for New Zealand. This is one of their handcrafted airports, and we're going to fly up to another one of their handcrafted airports just up the river, which is Quintin Lodge. It makes for a very tricky landing and approach. So we're going to put this little guy to the test. But let's go ahead and head on over and have a look at the textures. You'll hear me say this throughout the whole series that Carenado does a fantastic job with their textures. They're always just crisp. I mean, you come up to the propeller, you can come in as close as you want, and it's just so detailed. I mean, look at the little dots that they even put on the prop to show everything. The stickers are fantastic. This one does have a few spots where it's a little bit lower res, like some of the marks on the struts here. They're a little lower res than some of the other aircraft, but still not bad at all. Attention to detail on everything to the bulbs and all around the aircraft is just fantastic. Now you do get I believe six different liveries. And then you also get a Tundra model with the same livery. So you have your big Tundra wheels on there. Now, currently I have the fairings turned off, which if we jump inside and load up the little iPad or electronic flight bag, we can turn those covers on. So let's go ahead and just jump in real quick here. And we're going to have our little iPad here. And we can go ahead. Let's just go ahead and throw in the static elements as well. We'll put everything on there. And we can go ahead and close this back down. Let's go back outside and we will have a look at that stuff. So you can see we now have these beautiful covers over the wheels. The external power are normal static elements and some cones, and then I believe we are tied down on the back. Nope, we are not. So no tie downs, but we do have chocks. But it just, it completes the package. I really love that they always do these static elements. It just, it's nice to walk around your plane and have a look at, especially when it looks as good as this. So we're going to keep those off because we are landing on a grass strip. So you would either want to do the Tundra model or remove the fairings so that way, you're not going to get grass all clogged up in there. Let's go ahead and turn on actually, we can just turn off all of this stuff here. Turn on our pilots and get ready to go. So a couple of other options that you have in here. You can obviously open up the doors through the iPad, but you can also open up everything by clicking on the appropriate handles. I am very happy that they have windows that open because to me it's nice to hear that engine come to life when you're starting it up. You also have the ability to turn on and off the GPS. You can also click on this little panel there to turn it on and off. Then typical startup settings here, presets for cold, dark, ready for taxi and ready for takeoff that you can turn on. And then you have very brief landing and takeoff checklists in there. So nothing really different from most of their aircraft. You can go to their website and download their performance charts, checklists, and everything like that if you want a little bit more detail. So let's go ahead and get this guy fired up. It's very simple to do. We can go ahead and let's get these controls out of the way. And so actually I've already got some switches turned on. Let me turn off some stuff. There we go. That's better. Just going over the panels really quick. You're going to have, here's your starter mixture. Then you're going to have your cabin heat and carb heat, your lights and sort of power, battery, and avionics power on, your magnetos, and then you have your primer and throttle. Down here we do have a panel light, We also have a red light and a dome light up top, and then you also have a sort of blue map light there, which comes out of that one. And you can also open up these guys to get air in as well if needed. So that's a very quick overview. You have a very simple radio stack here with your transponder, comm, and nav. Down here you have an OBS, so that way you can tune in a like a VOR and follow that for some basic navigation. Now we do have a GPS here, which let's go ahead and get everything fired up, and then you'll be able to see how this looks and works. So we're gonna go ahead and get our mixture full forward. We want our carb heat off or all the way in. And then we can go ahead and turn on our master battery. And then I believe we would prime it before actually turning over magnetos and things like that. So you can do 2 to 3. It's a little superficial. It doesn't really actually affect the startup on there, but then we're going to go ahead and turn our key or our magnetos over to both. Let's crack that throttle just a little bit there. Down here is your fuel selector. You just want to make sure that is on both. And then we can go ahead and pull the starter. There we go. Sounds fantastic. I love the little engine in this. It just sounds great. I think it's got about 145 horsepower or so. You just want to kind of really, you want to be closer around 800, which is basically idle, to let that warm up. And then from here, let's go ahead and get our other lights on as well. So we want to make sure that our beacon is on. Might as well turn on our nav. Now, this does have 2 sets for landing lights. You have really out, which I would call taxi lights, and then a full out for landing lights. So we can just keep that in the middle part there as we get ready to taxi. From there, we have our radio button, which is like your avionics. So if you turn that on, you can see that these come alive. You can go ahead and turn our transponder over to standby, and this comes on. Now, quickly going over this, you have a few different choices on here as far as options and screens and flight plans, and you can put in an active flight plan as normal. It is a touch screen, which is nice. Typically, I don't have anything in here because there's no autopilot really to say follow this GPS flight plan, but it is nice that if you wanted to actually plan something out, you could have that information on there. I will either fly in the 3D vision because you do have a much easier to read compass than this little guy in here. That's the magnetic compass. You get a much better view of, keep in mind this is your ground speed, and then your GPS altitude, which is there. So you get a little bit of information there. But for today, we are going to be going back. Use your back button, or you can actually, the map button's there. But if you wanted to go back to the main screen, you can just hit back and come back here. And we're going to click on map. The reason being is that we're going to come down, I think it's called Arthur River. And this is Ada Lake. And then we're just coming right around over here to I forgot the name of it now. Quintin Lodge. Quintin Lodge is where we're going. So we just have a very light wind. It's a nice day here in New Zealand. A little bit of low cloud layer. So we're going to go ahead and get taxied on down the runway here, turn around, and once we're at the end there, we'll go through our takeoff settings. Here we are on runway 11 at Milford Sound, lined up, ready to go. We're going to have a pretty aggressive takeoff because we need to turn over and follow the Arthur River down that way, which you can see on our Garmin here. We have this river that we're going to fly. That's Lake Ada, and Quintin Lodge is just over there. It's a tricky approach because it sneaks up onto you quick, and you kind of have like a little ridge and trees you got to clip. So you kind of have to adjust your speed just right in order to plop down, and it's a very narrow runway, and it's a grass strip. So a lot of challenges there, but that's why I wanted to do it in this aircraft here. So we've got everything pretty much set up and ready to go. We've got our lights on, transponder is on, mixture is fully in, carb heat is in. We've got our altimeter set, we've got a game plan going for what we want to fly, and other than that, you really don't have to do too much, and that's why I kind of like this aircraft. For takeoff, you just go full throttle, advance slowly. That tail is going to come up, and then shortly after that, we can take off roughly around 65 to 70 knots is when we're going to rotate. You usually want to leave it probably closer to the 70 knots if we didn't have to do such an aggressive turn. Now we are going to do 1 notch of flap switch. We'll go ahead and set there. We have our trim set. I do like to have that nose up a little bit to help with the takeoff as well. So once we get up into the air, and we're just going to go up to 1,500 feet because we want to stay kind of low in the canyon. I believe the airport is actually at 800, but it's a short flight. So once we get up, and all we need to do is really back off our throttle to 2,400 RPMs, and then we'll be in cruise settings there, which will probably get us around 115, 120 miles an hour indicated. So let's go ahead and make sure. Let's use our parking brake off. Where's our parking brake? That is off. There we go. So let's just go ahead. I need to give everything a little wiggle here and make sure we are free and clear. That brakes real quick. We are good. Let's get in the air. Just advance that throttle nice and slowly. Get a feel for the rudder. All right, there we go. Tail is coming up. There's 60, 65. Let's rotate. Get a little bit of airspeed, and let's crank it over. Once we're over the water, really, we're clear of obstacles. We're at 80 miles an hour, which is great. Now, climb for this. So we just brought our flaps up. Climb for this, you want to be 88 miles an hour is what the official POH will say, but I just sort of like aim for that sort of like 90-ish, trim out for 90. Like I said, we're not going up very high, so not to worry too much. We are going to get pushed around here. You see this already, and this is because of really the thermals and the updrafts and everything coming off of the sides of these very steep mountains, and that is going to definitely affect this little plane. So as I said, this is definitely one of my favorite aircraft. I've done a lot of flights in it. I think it's just the simplicity and the sort of like heritage, and it's a very good looking aircraft. I mean, look at everything in here. It's just very well done. I like that they added this in, but you could turn it off really quickly if you really just wanted to have a true sort of like VFR flight, which we could do today, but it's nice to have that in these tricky situations in order to make sure that you get there safely. So a lot of simple but functional items in this little aircraft. And you do have a radio and a transponder, so if you wanted to jump onto VATSIM, you can. But it just looks great. Now, something that does not look great, which has nothing to do with this aircraft, but I want to talk about briefly because this will be, with the World Update 12, is that there's this weird mix, which happens with all of them, but so they updated really the topography, for lack of a better term, of New Zealand, and they added in some handcrafted areas and also handcrafted airports and some new waypoints. We were climbing up a little bit too much here. Need to reduce the throttle back a little bit. And so to get to this airport that we're flying in, this is the only way to get to it. And it's just disappointing to see that, well, they updated the topography, that they still have the satellite imagery stretched over it. Certain areas look amazing. Other areas look horrible. So it's just kind of, it takes you out of the immersion a little bit because it just looks bad, right? Now, obviously, is it going to ruin this flight? No. There's also areas like up here. I mean, look at that. That looks amazing. There's some stretching going on, but they've done a great job with the rocks there, and that's just down to the satellite imagery. But I would imagine that they can figure out that, like, they figured out, oh, this needs to be trees. Look, this should be trees or rocks at this point because something decided that there shouldn't be trees here. So, a little bit interesting. So, I'm already at a point where we need to start talking about landing. Like I said, it's going to be a very short flight. So I'm going to start to slow us down because once we go around this next turn, the airport is really going to start to sneak up on us. And so we want to sort of get ready for that. I'm going to come down to 1,500 feet. I'm going to level off here and start to get a little bit of speed off of the aircraft. And you know, that's what's cool. I mean, look at that. Awesome, right? So awesome. And that's what this aircraft I think is great for, is doing flights just like this, where you're just kind of wanting to explore to these little remote places. Up in Alaska, this would be super fun. It's not a true bush plane, but you can definitely, with the Tundra tires that are on it, which is an option, you can really land in some rough places. And there's a lot of good airfields in this New Zealand update as well that would be great for this aircraft too. So I do recommend this pretty much out of, if you had to buy one Carenado aircraft and you're okay not having autopilot, it'd either be this or the PA28181, which was just recently released. And I'll put a link to my review of that one up above. But you can see those stretched textures again. I mean, it's not horrible. And I have my settings pretty much maxed out ultra on just about everything. And the terrain detail maxed out at 400 and, you know, all that good stuff. So it's not it's the settings that are doing this. And I thought we were closer than we were, and we're not. So we'll go ahead and just fly up the canyon here a little bit more. We've basically got there to come around. I don't want to go too fast because you'll see once we get to the approach of how we have to really kind of cut it. And you really almost want to be around 65 knots at these trees, because then you need to dip your nose down and you're going to accelerate, but then you need to bleed that speed off to get onto the runway. So it gets pretty tricky pretty quick. Alright, so this is where it's going to get tricky. We want to slow down here and get those flaps in, because really right around this next bend is where the runway is going to be. So it's 1 notch to 2 notches right away. Really introduce some drag. We need to go wide on this turn. We're going to be plopping down. We should see a little bit of green in a minute, which is going to be the runway. This is one of the more tricky. There's the runway there. And we've got to try and manage our speed enough that we can do the final little descent. We go 3rd notch of flaps to clear these trees, and then have enough time to really bleed off that speed coming in. So we're in 4th notch of flaps here. Just watching that airspeed though, because we're about to stall, which is okay because I'm going to drop that nose down now. Idle. See how tricky this is. Hold it, 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 hold it. A little bit of a bounce. Whew. Now came back up, too much braking. Woo, there we go. Very narrow runway. I doubt that the bushes are that close, but go ahead and bring our flaps up. Man, tell you what, that got my heart pumping a little bit, even for a simulator. Here we are at Quintin Lodge. We'll go ahead and spin us around up here. And go ahead and park her there. So you can see that was a lot of fun. I mean, you can see what we had to come down and plop down here. So very tricky approach. I suggest trying it out because it's a lot of fun. Challenging for sure, but this little guy can do it. And very enjoyable. This is a cool little lodge here. Shutdown procedures on this is very simple. You're just going to go and turn off really your electronics, and then you're going to bring back your mixture. Once your mixture is back, engine will come to a stop. Go ahead and turn off your magnetos, and then you can turn off your battery, and we pop on those static elements again. And it looks like the bearings came back on, which we would have had grass in them, but that's okay. That is only superficial. But let's have a little look outside here because it is a cool little spot. I mean, I love that they're doing these types of places. This is the only way to get into this is on this little grass strip. There's no road. I think there's like a hiking trail to come up here, but there's the 170B at Quintin Lodge in New Zealand. Very cool little flight. It only takes, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to get up here from Milford Sound. So a lot of fun. Recommend doing something like this in this type of aircraft. 170B by Carenado, like I said, definitely one of my favorite. Worth purchase, especially if they ever do a sale or something like that. It is just, pick it up. I enjoy it. I'm sure you will. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And until next time, take care.